Hi, this is Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at two pens from China. The first one, this beautifully brown coloured Jinhao 200. The second pen from PenBBS, this gorgeous blue PenBBS 308. Join me down on the mat where we'll look at each pen in more detail, do a rating sample, and then we'll score them and see which one comes out the winner. So here we are down on the mat, and let's take a closer look at each of these pens. We're going to start with the Jinhao 200. So this lovely looking pen, it's a bit small when you look at it, but we'll cover that in the measurements. This pen, well, it cost me $15, so it's a fairly inexpensive pen. The colouring on here though, just look at this. We've got this like golden colours, we've got some greens, we've got some greys. Beautiful looking pen, really attractive to the eye. If we take a closer look, we'll start here with the top of the cap, and that's nice and domed. Then this comes down to this silvered clip. We've got here the Jinhao logo etched on there. A little bit of an indentation. I can't actually feel it, so I don't know if it's just there for looks or if it is actually in there. And then again, we've got like a trident at the end. The clip itself is fairly springy, so I can quite easily pull it off and it springs back with a nice click. So we'll follow on down this cap. So the cap, apart from at the end, is more or less the same width all the way down till we come to this step down here. Now this is one of the things that I don't like about this pen. It's got a really noticeable step down from the cap into the actual pen body. The pen body itself then carries on roughly the same width all the way down, and then the end finial again, so we've got a dome on there. So a little bit like a cigar shape. Let's take a closer look at the nib. So the nib, it's a number 5 Jinhao nib. If we turn it around, we can have a closer look at it. It's got a bit of etching on there. It's a small nib, but it is a small pen. That nib then leads into this silver coloured section. It's more or less the same width all the way along. There's very little tapering on that section. And around here we can see there is a very tiny lip. It's so small, I've got to be honest, I can hardly feel it. So it's not going to impact it when you're trying to write with it. We then come down to our threads here. Again, the threads, there aren't that many of them, so you don't really notice them. And then if we unscrew it, we've got a metal section here leading into the cartridge converter. Because of this metal, obviously, you're not going to be able to eyedropper this pen, but the cartridge converter, it comes with it, so you're not losing out on anything. So that is the Jinhao 200. The other pen we've got is this one. This is a PenBBS. Now the model I bought, it was labelled as 308, but the model I received has got 266 engraved. This, it's not too much of a problem because in my research what I've found is that the 308 actually just replaces the 266, so this must just have been some of the older stock. This pen I bought from a store in Australia. It cost me $27, so again, not an overly expensive pen. Let's take a closer look. So we've got the finial at the top. Again, it's got that little dome on it. This time it comes down to a completely separate clip. So there's a clip band there leading into this silver clip. The clip, when comparing it with that 200, well, it's nowhere near as pretty looking, but it works. You know, it's nice and springy. Get a good snap back. Fits really well in my pocket. On this cap, we do have a slight tapering up till we come to the silver band here. The silver band, so we've got PenBBS, we've got a logo, 266, which is the model number, another logo, then we're back to PenBBS. What this does though, this band, it hides that step down. So there's not really as big a step down from the end of the cap to the rest of the body, which I like. So we then go through the rest of the body. Again, we've got a similar width most of the way down, and then we start to taper down to that bottom finial. So let's look at the nib on this one. So on here, this comes with a number 6 PenBBS nib. So definitely a bigger nib. Let's turn that around so we can look at it in a bit more detail. So you've got the PenBBS logo on there, and PenBBS, and then unfortunately I can't read the writing below that. Nice shape though to that whole nib. The section matches the blue plastic or the blue resin that's going all the way through the pen. I do think this is plastic. We've got a little bit of tapering up, and at the bottom we've got that step. A bigger step on this one. Again, I haven't actually found this one too much of a problem with that step. So we come on up, we come to the threads. Again, the threads are nice and smooth, and there's no noticeable step up to the body, so it's a nice smooth flow all the way through. Put that cap back on. Let's do some measurements. I'll fetch in my trusty ruler. So we'll start with that Jinhao 200. So uncapped, it comes in at approximately 13.7 centimeters. With the cap off, it's about 12.2 centimeters. Posted, it does post, which I've got to be honest is a good thing because this is a fairly small pen. Posted, it comes in about 15.7 centimeters. So not the largest pen even when posted. The 308. So here's the 308. So let's just straighten that up. So on this one, we've got a capped length of 14.3 centimeters. Uncapped, it comes in at 12.9 centimeters. Again, it posts quite nicely. And posted, we come in at 16.3 centimeters. So, you know, that's a fair distance more, and you really do notice it when you're using the pens. So let's do some weights. Reset that. So the Jinhao, 21 grams. The cap by itself, 6 grams. So quite a light cap. That PenBBS, 21 grams. And the cap, 8 grams. So in terms of weight, they're both very similar. Take that out of the way. So let's have a quick look at the cap. So to take the cap off, we've got half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.25, just over 2.25 turns to take the cap off. I say that reveals this section, which ranges from 0.96 centimeters up to 1 centimeter in width. The cap, that comes in at 1.4 centimeters in width, and the body is 1.2 centimeters. As I say, it's a small pen. With the PenBBS, so here we go half, 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. So slightly fewer turns to come off. I say that then gives us the section. I don't think this section looks as long. In terms of width, it goes from 0.9 centimeters up to 1.13 centimeters, so definitely wider. The cap, well, that comes in at 1.5 centimeters in width, and the body is 1.3 centimeters. It doesn't sound like a big difference when you're talking the numbers, but when you're actually holding it and using it, there's a big difference in the width of these two pens. Time now for a writing sample. Today's pad is made by Oxford, and it's using the optic paper. It's 90 GSM, so a nice thick paper. So here we have a Jinhao 200. This, it's the fine nib. I have too fine, to be honest. Most of the Jinhao pens I buy are fine nibs. The ink in here, it's from Oster. And it's called Caffe Crema. Really nice ink, this. It's a nice brown ink. Looks lovely in this pen. And to be honest, it's such a good match when you look at the colourings. Let's check on the wetness. So we start with immediate. Look at the beautiful brown in that. We'll wait for 5 seconds. You know, still looks as wet. 10 seconds. So we're starting to dry off now. 20 seconds. Then finally, we're going to go for 1 minute. And after 1 minute, that's well and truly dry. Our other pen, so this is the PenBBS 308. And this just comes in a medium nib. It's one of the things I like about PenBBS pens is this medium nib. I find it's really nice and smooth. The ink, well again, it's from Oster. And it's called Blue Water Ice. Some beautiful shading in this, so you can see there on the where we're going from light to dark. On the S, here we've got some, you know, the shading in this is really nice. Let's test our wetness. So immediately, you know, again, it's a nice wetting. Just look at the blue in this, you know, like with the brown here, it was gorgeous blue colour. We'll then go for 5 seconds. You know, we've still got that wetness there. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. And then 1 minute. And again, after a minute, this one's dry as well. So for my next writing sample, what I'm going to do is reposition the paper and then holding the mic as close as I can to the paper, I'm going to write out a sentence with each pen. This is so you can actually hear the pen writing. So we'll start with the Jinhao 200. And now the PenBBS 308. So with both these pens and the ink combinations, you know, you've got this beautiful shading coming through in that fine with the brown, and also here in the blue, which is coming from the medium nib. I have noticed with this, I do get a number of missed lines as I'm writing. What I need to do is, I think, just smooth it out a little bit, but I didn't want to do it in time for the review. I'd rather do it as the pen comes to me, and then I'll tweak it as I go on and start using it more. Fetching in both pens, so we can look at them side by side. Here we have the Jinhao 200, and here we have the PenBBS 308. So what do I think about these pens? Well, they're both really nice. You've got to remember, they're inexpensive pens. This one was $15. The PenBBS, it was $27, so they're not going to break the bank. They're both cartridge converter pens, so similar filling systems. One of the things I don't like with this PenBBS is this translucency. I don't like actually seeing that cartridge converter. Now, I can understand if you've got a piston filler, it's nice so you can see the ink. But to me, when I look at this, all I see is that cartridge converter. So that spoils it a little bit for me. I love the looks of this. My problem with this Jinhao 200, if I'm using it unposted, it's just that bit too small for me to be able to write with it comfortably. Whereas posted, it's actually not too bad. And with the cap being fairly light, it doesn't add too much weight, so I don't mind using this pen posted. It's just, unlike the other one, you have to use it posted. And my preference, to be honest, is always to have a pen unposted. The other thing with this Jinhao 200 that I don't like, it's this step down here. I do find, as I said earlier on, I do find that just looks a little bit wrong, as if they couldn't be bothered just to spend a little bit extra to have a gradual tapering down, which is a shame. So let's give this some points. So we're going to start with the pen looks. So as I said, I love the colouring of this. It's really nice. I don't like this step down. I love this. This clip looks really nice. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. With the PenBBS, I love this blue. I really do. It looks so nice. And this silver really sets that off. But I don't like that I can see that cartridge converter. So again, for this one, I think I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 as well. Writing experience. So here we've seen the writing. They both write really nicely. With this Jinhao 200, because I have to use it posted rather than unposted, I do find that slightly knocks the writing experience for me. So I can only really give that a 7 out of 10. For the PenBBS, I love the way it writes. It feels nice. Yes, I've got these couple of places where I'm missing something, so I have to dock it for that. But even so, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. Ink flow. Well, the ink flows really well from both pens. I like that the PenBBS is a wetter ink, so we're getting even nicer shading. Might not come over so much on here, but on some of my other papers you can really see that shading in the ink. So in terms of ink flow, I'm going to give 8 out of 10 to the Jinhao 200, and I'm going to give 9 out of 10 to the PenBBS. So looking at the two pens, value for money, this is always the hardest one, because, how do you equate pens which aren't the same price? So I've got to look at this, $15. It's nice, it writes well, it does what I want. What do I want? I want a pen that puts down ink onto paper nicely, consistently, and looks nice when it's done it. That's what I get for my $15. I'm going to give this, value for money, 9 out of 10. The PenBBS, $27, so nearly double the price. Again, writes well. Have a couple of issues with it, but nothing really major, but they are there. And it's twice the price of that Jinhao 200. So I've got to knock this, so I'm going to give this one only an 8 out of 10 in terms of value for money. But what that means is my total scores for the Jinhao 200, 8 out of 10. For the PenBBS, 308, 8.5 out of 10. My final thoughts on these, it's small. That's what lets this down. But I still like writing with it. I find that the two of these pens, I'm more likely to reach for the Jinhao 200 and use it posted, even though it's got a lower score. With this 308, looks really nice. I just cannot get past seeing that cartridge converter every time I'm looking at it. To me, it just spoils the overall look, which is a shame because, again, it's a nice pen. It writes quite nicely. Yes, I do have the issue with skipping some lines. That's a letdown. But that's something I can fix, I think, with just a bit of polishing. Lovely pen though, but as I said, I'd still reach for that Jinhao 200 over this, which is a shame because other than that writing and that cartridge converter, it's a lovely pen. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give me a like. Do you have either of these pens? Do you have any similar pens that you enjoy using? If you do, please drop a comment below. Let's kickstart that conversation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.